times, which government did we have who used to rule India in those days? In those times? Does everybody know that? Who ruled India most from Guru Nanak to Guru Nanak the time Lodi dynasty, but towards the middle of his life to the time that the Guru Gobind Singh Ji passed away, the Mughals used to, and Mughals came from there. They came from the modern day Uzbekistan, wherever, if you look at the Central Asia, that's where they came from. But when you live in a country for 500 years though, 550 years, you become part of the game, you become part of the same culture, because you've been brought up there and everything, so for example. What do you think the languages that were spoken in India those days, in northern India, which language did they speak?
Farsi.
Farsi. You think Farsi, they spoke Farsi? Was it they spoke Turki? Because Uzbekistan, the language only Turkic language, as you know. But then Farsi of the Iranian was the official court language. So the language only. Slowly they adopted the Indian languages. So by the time Akbar's rule came and everything, they were speaking Hindustani as well. The modern day Hindustani will be So after the Guru Gobind Singh Ji passed away in 1708, does anybody know what happened to how the Mughal government still continued to rule, or they it continued to rule for a little bit more time, yes. Does anybody understand up to what point the Mughal rule continued in India then? Especially in Punjab? Huh? No, 1740s, mid-1740s, 1748, 1747. So another 40 years of Mughal rule in Punjab and Delhi, and after that, who took over then? Punjab, especially in Punjab. We're only concentrating on Punjab though, now we're in mid-1740s. Who took over? Maharaja Ji, they're both parts of it. 100 of the He was born in late 1780s actually. So 1740s के बाद अफगान took over. Ahmad Shah Abdali, the regime came over. So Abdalis took over Punjab. So that regime continued. He attacked India several times, and we suffered through a lot during that regime. A lot of massacres happened and everything. So we skip another 40 years now, and then we go to after the Afghan regime was driven out though. Which government came in Punjab? First the Mughals, then the Afghans, and then who else? And then? Anyways, the Sikhs came, but in a different form. We were not united though, we were small principalities, and they called missiles. So starting with the Mughals though, then the Afghans, then the Sikh missiles, small principalities, and then after the Sikh missiles rule was over in late 1790s, what happened after that? This is the history of Punjab, just going up there. Punjab was? Anybody? Nobody? Then the unification started in Punjab. Unification of Punjab. Punjab became an entity by itself, a country by itself. It was never a country. Why was it never a country? Under the Mughals, it was a state. Suba can be Punjab was never a separate country for a but Punjab in the 1790s became a separate nation. It's like you need a passport to enter Punjab, And the unification happened under the leadership of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Late 1790s, this happened in 1765, 66, 67. This happened in 1748 approximately, and the Mughal rule ended. This is from 1748 Mughal will end where 550 years almost in Punjab though. In the rest of India the Mughal will still continue. Punjab it ended 1748. So unification, Punjab became a country now. When Punjab becomes a country, the entire Punjab is a nation now under Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and the Punjabi boundaries were extended to the south and north and everything. And then after the unification of Punjab, Punjab becomes a country and it had its own coins, own currency, own missions, own foreign department, own army, everything.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਖਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੁਗਲਸ ਬਾਕੀ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ ਸੀ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਸੋ ਵਾਟ ਕਾਜ਼ਡ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਬਾਕੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਸੀ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਜਸਟ ਇਨ ਪੰਜਾਬ
ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ ਅਬਦਾਲੀ's army was too strong for them Abdali they could not Abdali was just too strong for them Abdali ਦੇ ਥੱਲੇ the whole system broke down so they gave up
the Indians fighting back Mughals or Afghans ਦੀ ਆਪਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੜਾਈ
ਹਾਂ Mughal Indians ਹੈ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਨ India ਦੇ ਗੁਲਾਮ ਕਿਤੇ ਹਜ਼ਾਰ ਸਾਲ there is no such thing as Indians so ਉਹ ਮੁਗਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੋਕ
I think by that
Punjab becomes a separate country ਹਾਂਜੀ
I think by that time the English were also ruling most of
yeah English were ruling I'm concentrating on Punjab though so Punjab becomes a separate country Punjab is a separate nation with its own missions own army own everything and it's not just the Sikh though the Punjabi army was made up of Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and everybody there were the sections in the Punjabi army that were only Sikhs though there were sections in the Punjabi army only Muslims also only Muslims though Punjab becomes a separate country with its own diplomatic missions with its own leader with its own everything own education system everything and it flourishes Punjab flourishes during those times 1790s to laake 1839 tak until the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh tak these 40-50 years is golden years in Punjab when the British came the first time they found out Punjab was one of the highest educated does anybody know that the literacy rate in Punjab in those days was more than 90% literacy rates highest literacy rate Maharaja made huge attempts to teach everybody everybody was well versed in writing Gurmukhi or Shahmukhi or Farsi and everything he invited people from as far as France Russia people to come and teach them and everything Punjab flourished absolutely the economy flourished they added Kashmir to their region Sindh to the region Bahawalpur the uswale the area Kohad Bannu da and everything and all the invasions from the northwest stopped during Punjab. From 1839, I'm just going to give a little background though, even though Simba told me to skip all this stuff, but just a small. 1839 to 1849, 10 years we survived more after Maharaja Ranjit Singh's death. Well, this period was in turmoil. One of the worst things he did is to have a proper heir. Who's an heir? What is HEIR mean? So I say, he's my heir, what does it mean? No, it's not son. Successor. He was a successor. Somebody who takes care of things when you're not here. So, 10 years though, with Maharaja Ranjit Singh's sons, none of them really worked out and there were a lot of these things. Bottom line is, in 10 years, the Sikh rule ended. The British invaded Punjab. And the Sikh rule comes to an end in 1849. And then who's controlling Punjab now? Number 7. The British control Punjab. British are in control. Direct rule from London. It was a part of the British Empire. Punjab was inducted part of the British Empire. So from the Mughals to Afghans to Sikh missiles to unification to Maharaja Ranjit Singh to turmoil for those 10 years trying to survive. 2 long wars, the first Anglo-Sikh War and the second Anglo-Sikh War, and the British take over in 1849 though. And which year did the British leave Punjab? Does anybody know? Which year did India gain independence though? 1947 though. So from 1849, they ruled from 1849 to 1947. How many years is that? 98 years. A very small time, not a huge amount of time the British ruled Punjab. And that is the reason if you go to Punjab even today though, the British influence is not that much. Not too many people can speak English even now fluently. Many signs you see are not in English though, because the British rule in Punjab was the smallest one, as opposed to in the other regions of India, for example, in Bengal or in Madras or something, the British rule was more than 250 years. In Bengal, they ruled for more than 250 years. The influence is much more there though than in Punjab. But what happens when the British take over though, the British were very concerned that they didn't want the Punjabi nationality to come back again. They were afraid that Sikhs might rise in revolt against them. So what do they do though? They attack the Sikh institutions. So which is a Sikh institution they attack first though? They attack the Akal Takht first. Attack does not mean they went with the guns though. Here attack, they were smarter than the Mughals and Afghans. They attacked the very core belief of Sikh. For example, one of the core belief in Sikh is we do not believe in idol worshipping. We do not believe we don't pray to idols at all. Yeah. Has anybody visited a Hindu mandir? Anybody in the class? Yeah. So you notice on the idols bani hum. There's nothing wrong with I'm not going to go into whether they're right or wrong. My guru told me not to do it, and that's the end of the story for me. You know, मैंने उस चक्कर से जाना कि whether they are right, we are wrong, or who's right and who's wrong. You know, so they attack the core belief system to attack the national republic. They brought idols into the Barsa in the Parikrama. They changed the name from the Granthi to Pujari. Pujari is a traditional name in Hinduism. They attacked from everywhere. They brought in a new sect of Sikhs called Sanatani Sikhs. You know, a Sanatani, which means Hindu bhi hai and Sikh bhi hai, dono hai. Huh? Who? Sanatani, they were paid by the British. They wanted to destroy the core system. Then other thing they did is though, all the important gurdwaras in Punjab though, can somebody name? This is the unified Punjab. This is the old Punjab, not the small Punjab that we see today. This is like Punjab as a nation, Punjab as an entity. You know. Can you name 5 most important gurdwaras in Punjab? 5 or 6, very, very important, very, very important. Of course, the first one is the Barsa Amritsar. Everybody knows that. That doesn't count. Which else you think were, especially in those days? I'm talking about in 18. So I'm going to say here, British. They start meddling into our affairs, big time.
Nankana would be the most important.
Nankana is the second most important place after the Barsa. Undoubtedly. Nankana was the core center of Sikh belief those days. And what do they do though? They're very simple. They put in people in those gurdwaras who have no spirituality, they koi sense not de chhode koi. They purposely did that. Why did they purposely do that? Because they knew it was hard to defeat them this way. So attack at their core beliefs though, change their core beliefs though, attack their, and the other thing they did, you'll be surprised though, they went and took the keys of the Tosha Khana in Gangsar. They went in and they said, well, we rule this country, we are the owners. All this expensive stuff that you have in the Tosha Khana, in Akal Takht se Rumale, Prane, Shastar Maharaj, they sariyan chadiyan sanu diyo, chadiyan sadiyan, tuadiyan nahi. Tu sare thale asi tono rule karne. And they were forced to hand over the keys. So they got the keys. So every time during a Gurpurab though, when they needed something, they had to go to the British government, apply for it though. Please, can you take out this stuff? Guru Ramdas Pasha's Gurpurab is coming up. We need the special chor jehdi upar lagane hain, wo sanu de diyo. And then the British officer used to send somebody with the white officer used to come with some Indian officer into Akal Takht, hand over the case to them. They used to open the door, take the stuff out, lock the door, put the keys back, and then they used to take the keys back. That's how bad things were. So this is the area that I'm going to pick up my pieces here and see though. And similar, I don't mind coming during summer. If everybody wants to come, I might not be able to finish everything, but I'm more than happy to come in there and finish my talk real soon. So does everybody know what's going on here though? Is it total about to see? young people can sit straight. So when they started meddling into Sikh affairs, though,
is it true that the British actually took away the Rawab and they introduced the harmonium to do Kirtan?
I'm sorry, they did what?
Did the British take away the Rawab? Like for pre-British rule, I heard.
Rawab, in the sense that they tried to do a lot of harm to the Sikh musicians also. They tried their best to कि the music भी बदल दियो, the सब कुछ बदल दियो, they did a lot of nasty stuff. I mean, they did a lot of, and nobody was there to stop them. The Sikhs realized in the 1920s though, 10s, कि things are not working out. This is not good. The first thing that people realized in early 1900s is कि, oh my God. I know, another thing they introduced, you'll be shocked to hear this one. Because of the entry of the Sanatani Sikhs into that, they made a caste system come into the Darbar Sahib. So for example, if you were a Sikh from a lower caste when you converted though, your Ardas or your Kada Prashad Deg was not accepted at the Darbar Sahib. Can you believe that? The very core belief of Sikhi is there is no caste here. But we don't believe in, I mean, I say caste believe nahi karte, but unfortunately every single Punjabi that I know of believe in caste. It's just a joke. We say that, but it's in fact, मैं कलकत्ता तो वहाँ शुरू तो जन्मे थे तो मैंने इस बारे पता नहीं होता सी कि नो पापे कौन हैं, ते जट कौन हैं, ते तरखान कौन हैं, ते एक कौन हैं, ते अरोड़े कौन हैं, मैंने कुछ नहीं क्लू सी इस बारे क्योंकि कभी इस पासे कोई होया ही नहीं, कभी ना मापियों ने कभी इस पासे कभी कोई फोकस कराया ना उठे कभी नहीं पता सी. मैं तो यूएस आया है तो पढ़ने वास्ते. It was admission with CSUN as an undergraduate student in January of 1982, long time ago. Then I realized, they said, "तुझे जट नहीं है." मैं कहा, "ओके होने." तो पता नहीं मैं नहीं पता, I don't know what it is. कि ऐ होने कहता अच्छा जी मैं क्या पर गुरु नानक के घर पे कोई है ही नहीं कास्ट उन्होंने तो नाम नहीं बेदी लिखे ही नहीं नाम इधर गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी सोडी भी लिखते सन किसी ने लिखा किसी ने लिखा गुरु अमरदास भल्ला नहीं लिखा उन्होंने नाम तो वो तो नहीं बिलीव करते सिक्खी तो बिलीव नहीं करती बार चिक के लेकिन whatever you say I think we are probably one of the worst offenders in entire India. I think Punjab the caste system today let the young ones to hear also is we have made the mockery of Guru's Shabad as nobody else has done. And if you don't believe me, look at the matrimonial ads, and you will find out what I mean. Complete mockery. So what the British did, we are already doing that now, and nobody has the courage to speak about anything because that's how who we are. We na matha tekle na the matha tekle ne banane koi tyaar nahi karte, you know. So they introduced a caste system into the Darbar Sahib also. They said, well, if you are this caste and this caste, then we will तुझे कड़ा प्रसादी देख प्रवान होगी तो अभी उधर. However, if you are this caste, your कड़ा प्रसाद देख will not be taken. So the poor guys who stand in there and they used to be a sevadar standing in the front and they're saying no, they तुझे करा सकते. That's how that things work. So a revolution had to take place. It had to be changed. And they, believe me, all those changes that they did in 1920s have all been reversed out now, unfortunately. It is not one single change that we worked so hard about. So first thing they did is they stopped the murtiyan or the idols from the Darbar Sahib. That struggle started, the earliest struggle that started. By Sarpajit Singh and Thalek, by Khan Singh Naba, Sundar Singh Majitia, the old important Sikh leaders of the time though, they came in and they somehow fought for that. Fought so hard that they were forced to remove the idol. There was a big hoo-ha about that. दूसरा फिर जो शुरू होया चाबियां दा मोर्चा कि चाबियां वापस करो साडियां चाबियां वापस ना करो मोर्चा लग गया चाबियां दा protest started all over Punjab कि दरबार साहिब दियां British government has no rights in meddling in our religious affairs. To stay away from that. We're not asking for political power to the religious affairs is meddle ना करो. और 6 महीने मोर्चा लग गया रैकियां जाना गईयां उठे अल्टीमेटली दे गेव एंड देन द सिखां दी आन बड़ी सी कहंदे ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਬੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣ ਜਾਣਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚਾਬੀਆਂ ਛੋੜੋ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਣ ਜਾਣਾ and then the white officer under the deputy also the police commissioner and the deputy commissioner sare were all white British officers in Punjab and Amritsar and this white British officer comes with the keys in a red rumale, which rumala with pure and the Barca under, so we won that part. But the most important thing was the caste system stuff. बड़ा समझाया मने ना एलो उत्थे फिर दरबार साहब वाट लिता गया भी इन्हां दियां दरबार साहब अंदर इन्हां दे लोअर जेड़े सिख जेड़े हैं जेड़े लोअर कास्ट तो हिंदुइज्म जेड़े कन्वर्ट होए हैं that system also changed. We had to fight for that. Was a long morcha there also. So ultimately that got changed and then started the fight for the control of the gurdwaras, because these gurdwaras being controlled by the, first of all, you'll be surprised though, Nankana Sahib varge gurdware ach the head person on the top was not even a Sikh. Udasi Sant ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਮਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਦਸਤਾਰ ਦੀ ਬੰਦੀ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਫਲਾਇੰਦਾਰ ਸੀ non-spiritual banda doing all kind of bad things in the Gurdwara. That started to happen and I spoke about that last time. So the British started to do that though, then one by one morche lagne shuru hoye. Nankana Sahib morcha lag gaya, Guru Ka Bagh morcha lag gaya, Sialkot bada morcha lag gaya, Punjab Sahib morcha lag gaya, Punjab Sahib train rokiyan gayi utthe morcha lag gaya. What is a morcha? Protest. And let me ask you a question. When the Sikhs protested during Mughal time, what was the protest like though? When they revolted against the Mughal rule or against the Afghan rule? Was it armed protest or non-violence sort of a protest? Non-violence. You think Mughals against we did non-violence? I don't think so. I think there was an armed protest. We took up arms and we fought with them. We lost heavily in the beginning, but then slowly we got back on our feet and did what we had to do. So that was a completely armed conflict. But during the British time, they conflict shuru hui hai. Now I'm talking about 1910 to lake 1924-25. This period here. About 18 years of period. Guess what kind of protests were these? Non-violence. And so does anybody know how does the protest used to be though? The protest, how does anybody in the class show me something what kind of a non-violence protest to 16 though? It's very unlike us by the way. This is not us at all. This is, we don't, sade the shastar jade hand peer and so, but uswale the times were different. Mahatma Gandhi's movement was very strong. The non-violent people got affected all over India. That was the trend those days, So we also did that. We decided we're not going to take up arms this time. We're going to do it the other way. So this was a different kind of a strength you need to determine mental strength. Does anybody know how they do that? What was the standard practice? Somebody else has this. I'm sorry?
Did they go up and get hit?
Yeah, so what was the procedure though? So they used to assemble all in a kalpa. There used to be a jatha from anywhere from 25 to 50 people who used to do a ardas which shamil hode some of their kalpa sab and they used to take a oath, And the oath was, no matter what happens to us, we are not going to hit back. No matter if they will kill us, we will not hit back. Which is very unlike Sikhs. Both in the Mughals, we didn't do that at all. We said, you hit us once, we come back to you and you watch what happens to you, But this time, the struggle was different. They also knew that the British Empire was the mightiest empire. There is no doubt in the fact. They used to say, there was a saying, the sun never sets in the British Empire. Does anybody know what kind of far-flung areas they ruled? Almost all of South Asia, almost all of Northern and Eastern Africa, Tanzania, Egypt, Israel, Syria, modern-day Arabia, Yemen, you name it. I mean, Libya, koi country nahi si jahin thalle wali jiri. And then down south in Africa, South Africa, Rhodesia, modern-day Zambia, everything was under the British control. They controlled everything. South America, they controlled as far as Falkland Islands. They were masters of. They controlled Gibraltar. They controlled who could enter Mediterranean Sea and who could not enter Mediterranean Sea. They controlled all the trade, the mightiest empire of all times. And I don't think they can beat it. So they knew that there's no way we can win in an arms struggle. It's just not possible. So 25 people, this was assembled Thale, and in Akal Takht Sahib Thale, they take an oath in front of the Guru that no matter what happens to us, we're not going to pick up arms. Panj Bande, generally speaking, there used to be Panj Nishan Sahib. This is as a general rule. Panj Nishan Sahib. Panj Nishan Sahib, इथे Gangsar Maharaj di भीड़ and पीछे बाकी का जत्था चलता सी शब्द गांधा Panj Nishan Sahib महाराज दी सवारी पीछे महाराज दी सवारी तो पीछे जड़े बाकी जड़े हैं जड़े There are some old pictures. I think Jasmine sent me some. If you, I think Google करोगे तो हम शायद मिल जाएंगे पुराने pictures जिनके निशान सब चुके हो colored me in black and white pictures inside me. And then they used to walk wherever the Morcha was, and they used to announce कि ऐसे इस दिन चल रहे हैं अमृतसर. They used to the public announcement was April 24th. No, we're going to leave. So let's say April 24th they left, they reached Guru Ka Bagh on the same day or the next day. The police used to wait for them. The British officer, the white British officer used to warn, you take another step and bad things will happen. And then Nishan Sahib, one person will go in and he will get hit right here. The low harm body, and then the second person will come, and the third person will come, and the fourth person will come, and the fifth person will come, and so forth, one by one, they came, all 25. Some of you read the CJO's accounts, right? Since you read it, you want to share that with the class? This is me saying that. You just read it.
It might be too long to read.
Just in 2 sentences. You don't have to read that. Just to tell the class what you want. I mean, I'm also going to tell you, there were 2 reporters. एक तो report owns only report है commonly quoted है, and there was a New York Times correspondent, Zimmern. Look up his last name. And by the way, that article in New York Times, I think 1922 the articles you can still find it on their website though. I'm going to talk about Zimmern himself, but just share with the class.
I can read one paragraph that I
just read the
like
paragraph. Listen carefully to someone.
This is on page 227, 228 of the PDF I sent in the group chat. But he writes, it was a strangely new experience to these men, to receive blows dealt against them with such of the force as to fell them to the ground, and yet never utter a word or strike a blow in return. The vow they had to make to God was kept to the letter. I saw no act, no look of defiance. It was a true martyrdom for them as they went forward, a true act of faith, a true deed of devotion. They remembered their gurus, how they had suffered, and they rejoiced to add their own suffering to the treasure of their wonderful faith. The onlookers too, who were Sikhs, were praying with them and praying for them, and the inspiration of their noble religion, with its joy in suffering innocently born, could alone keep them from rushing forward to retaliate for the wrong which they felt was being done.
So this is a British correspondent writing, a Sikh correspondent, British correspondent was here. In fact, C.J. Owens' book which आगे जाके लिख दिया आप पे हो, मैंने पूरी पढ़ा हुआ है, बड़ी बड़ी, लिख दिया कि the Western civilization, the way I knew it has ended today. I am ashamed to be a part of the Western civilization. What I saw. And Jallianwala Bagh incident, Jallianwala Bagh happened when? Which year? 1919. 1919 जगह था I could be wrong. Right? Then Jallianwala 1919. Vaisakhi. Yeah. So they got a taste of they already and to this day the British government has not apologized, by the way. Last time when the Queen visited India, 1950 जो आई है Queen थे, तो हम जो आई है दोबारा 10-15 साल 20 साल पहले आई सी Queen, the Sikh bodies approached her and told her that it is time that the British government apologize for what happened. and they still don't apologize. So it's not like they said, oh, we're really sorry this happened. She says sorry, I'm sorry about the unfortunate incident that happened, but they didn't. So they still haven't apologized for that. What they did in Jallianwala Bagh was. So CJ, once you have the report, आगे जाके जो Jaito Gangsar, what I'm going to talk about few minutes now though, Zemund is a very senior New York Times reporter who happened to be in India those days, and he found out कि बड़ा बड़ा मोर्चा लग गया है सिखाना, and he travels from Delhi to Jaito to cover the events there, and he stayed there for a few weeks, and he filed a report. पूरी स्टोरी लिख के उन्हें भेजी न्यूयॉर्क को, छपया आर्टिकल, जब टाइम पे छपया आर्टिकल. So it's not, these are not made up things, what I'm talking about today, So then all these gurdwaras started to be liberated one by one. And what does liberation mean here? Liberated from whom, do you think? Why did we need to liberate the gurdwara? What does that mean? What I just talked about, from whom? Who are we liberating the gurdwaras from? Not the British government. The British government was not in charge. They were indirectly controlling, but they were putting people in there who were not serving the Sikh faith in the right way. So they were controlling them. They themselves were not in the Gurdwara anymore, but they had their support behind it. So one by one, Gurdwara Azad hoye, Nankana Sahib, Guru Ki Bel, Sialkot, Guru Ka Bagh, bade Gurdwara, Panja Sahib, Lahore Gurdwara, 2-3 jade san, bade Gurdwara, the list is long,
Anandpur Sahib.
अनंतपुर साहब जो कब्जा जो है वो ऑलरेडी ठीक सी सारा अपने आप भी हो गया ठीक सारा तो एक और चक्कर भी है वीर जी क्योंकि मैं I don't want to with the kids because remember in 1809 there's a famous treaty of Amritsar that was signed सतलज के राइट साइड वाले एरिया सतलज के लेफ्ट वाले एरिया के डिवीजन हो गई थी तां ਜਿਹੜੇ सतलज ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ राइट साइड वाले ईस्टर्न पार्ट वाले एरिया सन ਉੱਥੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸੀਪੈਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਬਣ ਗਈਆਂ ਨਾਭਾ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ ਫਰੀਦਕੋਟ ਮਾਝਾ ਫਰੀਦਕੋਟ ਮਾਰਿਆ ਨਾਭਾ ਮਾਰਿਆ ਪਟਿਆਲਾ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬਣੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਹ ਇਸ ਪਾਸੇ ਦੇ ਬਣੇ ਖੜੇ because the British said to these people ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਲੱਗ ਹੋ ਜਾਓ that's another story I don't want to go through that happened in 1809 Maharaja was he signed the treaty and he said it's okay. So what they did is there was a princely state though in Punjab or Nabha. It's still there. If you look at the map, you go to Google Map today and look at that, Nabha, the city Nabha is still there in southern Punjab. It's near Bathinda in southern Punjab. It exists there. There used to be a princely kingdom there, a quasi independent Sikh kingdom, which were under the overall control of the British, but they had their own currency, their own army, but all under the British umbrella. And the kingdom, it was ruled by a gentleman, Raja Ritgaman Singh, I'm a large who was very, very close to the Sikh cause. He believed that this is what the Sikhs are doing right. And the British government warned him that you take your support away from all these Sikh activities. He said no. Moment he said no, there is a abdication is a British term, man. I don't want to go through it, but in the class I don't want to go through that much detail. But the word abdication, who's familiar with a lot of Punjabi history? Does anybody know what the doctrine of lapse means? Sikh history, so doctrine of lapse. Dalhousie ne introduced it. Curzon ne introduced it. Lord Dalhousie was So British government had one person on the top who used to rule India, and his name was, what was the post called? Governor General or Viceroy of India. That was the topmost post, appointed by the British Crown in London. And then every state in the British Empire had a governor. So Punjab, the governor, white person, appointed by the Governor General. So that used to be the rule. So the Punjab the governor approached the Nabha governor and said, "Ki, we are going to apply doctrine of lapse means that if you die without an heir to the empire, then the empire is out. So किसी का संतान ना होए अगर, especially male संतान ना होए अगर, जो राजे की death हो जाती सी, ते ये assume कर लेता ना सी कि उन्हें ये हिस्सा उन्हें British empire बना लिया। ते इस केस में क्या उन्होंने वार्निंग दी है कि डॉक्टर ने लैब अप्लाई करेंगे, इवन तेरा पुत्र है ताकि we make an exception। मन्या नहीं हो, उन्हें abdicate कर दो, उन्हें हटा देता, उन्हें गद्दी तो ज़बरदस्ती उतार देता। He was removed from his throne, and instead his 5-year-old son was put in there। ना 5-year-old नहीं किया। मारे दिलीप सिंह 5 साल के उम्र से 6 साल। जो 6 साल के बच्चे नु लाहौर के दरबार विचों सारे हीरे कट के ते ਤੁਸੀਂ क्वीन विक्टोरिया ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਉਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ क्वीन विक्टोरिया ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗਿਫਟ ਦਿੱਤਾ 5 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ 5-year-old how does a 5-year-old know what's going on 5-year-old doesn't know a 20-year-old doesn't know forget 5-year-old so when the Sikhs found out that they removed Ripudaman Singh the huge protest started and the protest started the British government clamped down on a curfew lagata section 144 only लगा होता है you cannot assemble नहीं हो सकता कुछ नहीं हो सकता ये सारे ब्रिटिश टाइम के रूल्स हैं सारे यानी इंडियन गवर्नमेंट हम तक यूज करती है ना अपने सब्जेक्ट्स के खिलाफ सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज दे सेड पुट दिस जेंटलमैन बैक इन चार्ज द ब्रिटिश सेड नो मोर्चा लग गया पीसफुल प्रोटेस्ट स्टार्टेड देयर इज अ स्मॉल टाउन नियर Jaito is a small town in Punjab near Batinda. You look it up though. South Talwandi to about 20 kilometers north, you know, this town still exists. If you type it in the name on your Google Maps, you'll find it. And within the town, there was a Gurdwara called Gangsar. Gangsar Gurdwara still exists. Hundreds of YouTube videos are there. You can look it up yourself. And if you type in Jaito, and the moment Jaito's map comes up, Gangsar will come up here. Gangsar was a Gurdwara. So Sikhs decided कि Gangsar क्यों उन्होंने choose किया because this was a place where Gobind Singh stayed there for a while. It's a historical place in Gurdwara. So they decided कि this will be the protest site. We are going to having इतने सी अखंड पार्टी लड़ी चलावांगे as a protest site. उन्होंने बाहर तंबू लगाए उसे बाहर tents were drawn up. महाराज जी सवारी ले आके उन्होंने अखंड पाठ करने शुरू कर दिए दीवान में. So what happened next? Does anybody know how the British government react to it though? The British government basically came in with force though and did बड़ी बेदबी से हमारे दी की थी उन्होंने. Not only अखंड पाठ खंडित करवा लेते उन्होंने और शूज लाके ऑलमोस्ट जितने भीड़ पे इसी उठे चले गए और बहुत बड़ी बेदबी हुई हमारे उठे. And the Sikhs were enraged. The whole Punjab was enraged. और एक गल हो तुम नोटिस करोगे पंजाब में जितनियां रिवोल्ट हुए अगेंस्ट द ब्रिटिश लोग हालांकि मुस्लिम्स में the population was way higher than ours and Hindus protest सारे सिखा नहीं थे. किसी ने हो किसी दी हिम्मत नहीं पी ना देखे खड़े होंगे और किसी तो लिया दो एक नाम है खाली. In fact, you will be surprised though under the Legislative Council of Punjab उन्हें दिना विच जितने मुस्लिम मेंबर्स सन जड़े और सारे ब्रिटिश सपोर्टर्स सन सारे. Jinnah was a different story, was a whole different thing that happened later on. Though. Very fascinating period of Indian history if you go through it. So they stopped the Akhand part. Once they stopped the Akhand part though, बेइज्जती हुई Gangsar Maharaj ji. SGPC took a decision कि होने से Gangsar का जयपुर मोर्चा लगना. This happened in July of August of मैं डेट लिख के लाके आया हूँ of 22. 23 beginning with towards the end of 22 पहला जत्था पंजी बंदियां दा जाना शुरू हो गया. जत्थे जांदे सन लाठी लाके खड़े होंदे सन वही same scene recreated होता बार. Except for once in early February 23 though when they came in there the British government said we'll teach them a lesson now this time. They mounted machine guns on top of the police vans Simon, there is a picture in the Barsab Ajaz Kar which Gangsar, those two police vans with their guns in the top. I don't know if you can show everybody. That's like somebody's painting hai, you know. Essentially, the person who was there who helped create that painting, you know. If you type in Jaito Gangsar Morcha images only, you will see that there is a picture. The Barsab Ajab Kar lagi hui hai jab using which there are two police vans and police vans they utte there are guns posted on that. You found that?
I'm looking right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so this time when the Morcha comes in though, they don't use the
This one?
yeah, that's the one. Can you blow this up and show it?
I'll send it in the chat.
So this happened in February of 23 that happened. When they opened fire to this near Thelgade Hassan. So hundreds of people died, of course, right there. This time they didn't use the Lati wala charge. Not only the people that Jathe, the member died, but the people who were standing around the congregation that was there, who was there to support the Jatha also died. So the rule used to be ki 5 ਬੰਦੇ ਜਾਂ 50 ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਜੱਥਾ ਅਕਾਲੀ ਜੱਥਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਗਤ ਨਾਲ ਟੁੱਟਦੀ ਸੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵਿਲੇਜ ਚ ਜਾਣਾ ਕੋਈ 10 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਦਾ ਸੀ ਕੋਈ 5 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਦਾ ਸੀ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਲੋਕ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸਨ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਜਲੂਸ ਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਫਿਰ ਥੋੜੇ ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ 10 ਕੋ ਜਾਂ 5 ਮੀਲ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਵਾਪਸ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਐਂਡ ਤੱਕ ਜਾਣਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਸ਼ਰਧਾ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਯੂ نو ਕਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਵਿਲੇਜ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਂਟਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਐਂਟਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸਲੀ ਸਟੇਟ ਦਾ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਨਾਲ ਚਲੀ ਤੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਦੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਦੀ ਬੜੀ ਡੈਥ ਫਿਰ ਹੋਰ ਮੋਰਚਾ ਪਕੜ ਲਿੱਤਾ ਹੋ 1.5 ਸਾਲ ਮੋਰਚਾ ਚੱਲਿਆ ਹਰ 15 ਦਿਨਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹਰ 14 ਦਿਨਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਕਾਲ ਤਖਤ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਕਿ ਇਤਨੇ ਨਾ ਆਣੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ 50 ਦੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ 25 ਨੰਬਰ ਨੂੰ 50 ਦਾ ਮੋਰਚਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਤਾ they ran out of what's this called? They ran out of places to go, so you were on a waiting list. You can't go until June of next year. No, I want to go sooner. Knowing what's going to happen to you. Age just bus is so. Won't नहीं हो सकता. होने नहीं मुझे सिख नहीं है. और एक सिक्की है ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੰਦ ਕਟਵਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਬੰਦ ਕਟਵਾਉਣ ਚਲੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੀ ਉਹ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਕੇਸਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਪਿਰਚੁਅਲ ਸਟਰੈਂਥ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਦੋਨੋਂ ਕੇਸਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਪਿਰਚੁਅਲ ਸਟਰੈਂਥ ਬੜੀ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਪਿਰਚੁਅਲ ਸਟਰੈਂਥ ਬੜੀ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ you just cannot go there knowing what's going to happen to you and you stand there with the bored face. So this New York Times reporter was standing near where the Jatha was passing. ਤੇ ਉਹ ਲਿਖਦਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਰਿਪੋਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ you can look it up yourself, Google ਤੇ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੈ आजकल AI आने के नाल बड़ा फर्क पै गया टाइप इज नेम आप ऐसे न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स जिमन जैतो गंगसर रिपोर्ट एंड यू विल गेट इट और लिखदा है कि मैं हैरान हां इन सिख जत्थियां ਨੂੰ देख के भी एक ਕਿਸੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਦੇ ਚਿਹਰੇ ਤੇ ਕਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਖੌਫ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਡਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਬੰਦ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਬਾਈ ਜਾਪ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ They don't care what's going on around them. They are not afraid. It's shocking to me to see how we are treating these people. And these massacres continue for days. Can you believe that people from Canada, from Vancouver, people from Hong Kong, people from Shanghai, people from the Middle East, people from Europe, they all came to participate in the meeting. And the British government found out that उन्होंने बंद करता उनका क्या उन्हें पता नहीं क्यों जा रहे और फिर झूठ लिखते सन कि we are going to visit family but family visit नहीं जा रहे और Bajbaj used to be a port in near Calcutta. That's where the ships used to get up. They used to get up, take a train from Calcutta all the way to Amritsar to the Barsab and then used to put their names down. And this continued for almost a year and a half. Numerous chathas came and they will. And the Sikh SGPC contracted with several hospitals in Bathinda area. There are hospitals. Especially class disturb. thought we were saying. What was he saying? I don't allow people to come in like that. What was he talking about?
The train from the train.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say was that people used to come from all over the world to put their name down. And ultimately in 1924, early 24, which is a year and a half after the agitation started, by Jodh Singh, who was a major Sikh scholar, the Madan Mohan Malviya, though always a Hindu nationalist, in a दोनों ने आके intervene किया. The Punjab government, the Punjab governor, I have his name written now, he invited both of them for talks though, and they decided to withdraw from this whole. They said कि we are not going to change our mind on Ridwansing. That we're not going to do. But we're going to let you do what you're going to do there. Well, that's fine with us. They said this is a political decision. This is a political फैसला साਡਾ. Religious तरह को मतलब नहीं. साडी गलती है कि तनो से रोके है कि अखंड पाठ उसी का जो करना करो. आज तुम रोका नहीं. उस जो मर्जी करना करो. पर असी अपना ए decision जेड़ा है removing the Maharaja, we will not take that. We stand behind what we do. And they reminded them that we don't meddle in our political. The moment you meddle in our political affairs, though, however, they said we'll do you a favor. 1925 is the famous Gurudwara Act was passed. They said we are going to formalize, we are going to legalize all the Gurudwaras in Punjab will be brought under one body. We will legalize the system. That was not here. So though that you don't have to struggle anymore. They give you a long-term solution to the whole thing. That was a compromise we reached. They said, we'll do that. This thing here, we're going to recognize that all Gurudwaras, even those that are not being liberated now, we're going to give the control back to you guys. No issues with us. Oh, some problem. But the ever decision was the man. Asi Gurudwara to see Azad Karan aaye si, tode Gurudwara the issues resolve kar dete. We're going to back away from, we're going to give you the keys of the Darbar Sahib, you've changed the caste system, you've removed the idols, you have total control of your own Gurudwaras now, we're not going to meddle in your affairs, you do what you want to do, and leave us alone with our political decisions, don't meddle in our political life. So a compromise was reached in early 24, and the 25 which the British government passes the Gurudwara Act, the famous Gurudwara Act in 1975, whereby all the Gurudwaras in Punjab only, I will make it very clear, not in Delhi, not in Bihar, not in Nader, not in Kashmir, not in Sindh, only in Punjab. All the Gurudwaras in Punjab is brought under one unified body and one unified rules. This is the struggle.
That was the last protest.
Normally, Jaito Gangsar, when I'm spoken, I sometimes take 3 to 1.5 hour sessions to explain. There's so much depth and detail what each jatha, who company, what happened, where did they get stopped, who beat them up, how did it happen. And lot of Sikh, last thing I want to say is that don't assume that just the regular Sikhs who participated. There were a lot of prominent Sikh Kirtaniyas like Bhai Jwala Singh, Kirtans of Bhai Gulzar Singh and their grandfather. He has, by the way, first-hand accounts of from his grandfather.
You also tell them about when they used to come up, they used to ask their mother and father's name.
And they?
About how when the Sikhs used to come up, the British used to ask them their mother and father's name.
Yeah, they used to ask their mother and where you are from. The same answer was. So what was the answer? Father's name was, they always wrote one name only. Mother's name, Mata Sahib. Which place you belong to, Anandpur? All of them wrote in subject. Everybody they ask for, the same answer. Mother's name, father's name, Guru Gobind Singh. Mother's name, Mata Sahib. Which place, which village do you belong to, Anandpur? And there's nothing else was said. So, Angad, this is not for this class. So just to leave it somewhere here. This is for the kids class. I disturb this last.
Break time. Break time with 50
Hurry, I'm ending.
Pay attention, pay attention.
So, just one question. So, during independence, 1947, so the maximum maximum damage was happened to Punjab.
And Bengal also.
So, is it like linked to this thing also, like they essentially divided Punjab
Yeah.
into multiple things?
Yeah, they could care less. That's a whole different topic. If you don't talk about the lands in the class, then we have to talk about the Crooks Commission, who appointed it. You know, किस तरह हुई Crooks Commission appoint हुई, किस तरह किने की किस तरह पंजाब the division हुई. So that's a whole another story. I kind of through all the videos so many story. It's hard not to do it. तो इस हार नहीं सकते जो साधना की करना
Intentional.
intentions but सारी यहाँ पे गलती नहीं है. That's why when you don't have a good somebody leader to represent you, when there's not a central person to represent you, then that's what happens. Over the story they got a clip हुआ. एक क्या वाला portion जेड़ा है जेड़ा 10 सालों का जेड़ा प्रोजेक्ट को लिखा है नंबर 6 वाला ये देखिए ये सुन के थोड़े लगते किस तरह सादा की सादा की it was horrible what happened. So that's why जिन्हियां ਜਦੋਂ अपनी हिस्ट्री तो जिन्हियां अखां मोड़ लेंदा जिन्हियां अपनी तारीख ਨੂੰ पता नहीं ਹੁੰਦਾ कि मेरी तारीख की है मेरी ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਵਾਲੀ हिस्ट्री ਦਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਜਾਣੂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ. By the way, Jaito Gangsar ਦਾ ਮੋਰਚਾ ਹਾਲੇ ਦੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਨਾਉਂਦੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਛੋਟਾ ਸੀ ਤਾਂ ਹਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ. As a young child, every year in February, ਨਨਕਾਣਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦਾ ਮੋਰਚੇ ਤੇ Jaito Gangsar ਦੇ ਮੋਰਚੇ ਦੀ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ proper celebration ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ and people used to be told here. Sorry, sir, I have to summarize it in depth, but I tried my best. But anybody has any more questions, you can always, I can come back in summer for 1 or 2 sessions, whichever way you guys are comfortable doing. I'm okay with that. I think we covered the most important part as to what happened, but in a super summarized form, But you got the gist of it, as to what happened. जो one the time एक बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है किसी ना किसी साथी के लिए ऐसी हर जगह फैले हुए सी. Does anybody, one last question, I'm going to end the class. Does anybody in the class know that how many districts in Punjab, unified Punjab, before 1947 had a Sikh majority? Huh? How many districts, and if you can mention some of them, which had a Sikh majority, not a Muslim majority, not a Hindu majority? You'll be shocked at the answer. There's only one district in Punjab that had a Sikh majority. Only one. And by the way, that still has today the biggest Sikh majority as far as the demographics is Punjab. So can anybody guess though, keda district was in Punjab? Which part of Punjab do you think had the biggest, the Sikh majority, or more than 50% Sikhs is what I'm saying? Tarantan. Has the only. Anyone now say? Tarantan is the only district in Punjab that we had a Sikh majority. Both. That's a whole different, very painful topic to talk about the condition. And how did the British government come to the conclusion of dividing Punjab? And how did we get treated? Stepson and stepdaughters, that's how we work.
So maybe next section we will talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk whenever, whenever. I'll talk to Simran. Okay, Ji? Any questions? Was it too boring? Probably too boring for somebody else. मेरे वास्ते avoid because it's like every time I read this stuff again, it just brings me up. How come there was nobody there to say this? If Master Tara Singh and Bemar Sahib bach gaye, then Amritsar came. Under the commission, they recommended Amritsar share which, guess who? There's a good question. August 1947, which demographics of the city of Amritsar, which was between the Muslims, Sikhs, and Hindus who had the highest population. From the class, let me ask. Guess na man, mujhe pata ho.
Repeat the question.
In July of 1947, when the country was divided, in the city of Amritsar, district Amritsar, city of Amritsar, which between the Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs, who have the highest number of population in Amritsar? Muslims in Amritsar. So, according to the rules of the Quds Commission, if the Barsa handle come Amritsar. Just imagine if that was the outcome. If the Master Tara Singh kisi mar jaange, the Barsa nahi jaange. So they traded the land then. They said, okay, eh de dene hai. Kehda trade kita unhone? Ravi da jehड़ा right side da jehड़ा eastern side of Gurdaspur wala hissa jehड़ा sara M to Naya district जिथे हूँ गुरुद्वारा है करतारपुर साहब डिस्ट्रिक्ट की है and the Narola की मन्नाद कर देने का they भी trade that. He said, okay यार आप लोग खोला रहे हो.
Even पट्टी भी trade हुआ है.
हाँ.
पट्टी आया.
चलो वो topic अलग है मुझे. That's a different topic. यही होता है ਜਦੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕੌਮਾਂ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਭੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਐਫ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ
So after those morchas happened, they never picked up the shastra again?
No, they picked the shastra and everything. They were not allowed to have armed struggle. You picked up shastra. How can you fight against the British, against the Mughal Empire? We got away with it because we did a guerrilla warfare. We used to go attack them in small groups here and there. And there used to be no modern Uswaledi armies and everything. British couldn't do that. They were too strong. And there were a lot of other reasons. Why is Khalsa?